The alarm on my wrist console screamed before I even saw the pit. Cold wind cut across the ice fields of Drenna Station, and my breath fogged in front of me as I ran toward the sound that should not have existed there. No creature was supposed to be alive in the discard pits. That was the point of them. I still remember the smell of frozen metal and old blood as I climbed down into that pit, my boots slipping on the icy rock. And there, curled against a wall of frost, was a small shape, shivering, its ribs pressing against thin fur, one eye a strange pale gold. Instead of the deep red every other Vexteri cub was born with. That single flaw was enough. That was why it had been left there to die. I was not supposed to touch it. Every law of the Threxian Empire, every rule I had learned in my 3 years working cargo routes through their territory, told me to walk away. Interference with a species' internal customs was treated as an act of war. Even I knew that adopting a discarded predator cub was not just illegal, it was an insult sharper than any blade. But the cub looked up at me, and I saw something in its eyes that had nothing to do with law or custom. It was not asking for pity. It was simply waiting to see what I would do, the way something waits when it has already stopped expecting kindness. I picked it up anyway. My name is Daniel Hart, and that single choice on a frozen station at the edge of nowhere became the story the Empire still whispers about, even now, years later, in places I will never set foot in again. The cub did not understand gentling. When I wrapped it in my thermal jacket, it flinched, waiting for the blow that always came after warmth in its world. Predator cubs are taught early that comfort is a trick, a test, a trap before punishment. When no blow came, it simply stared at me, confused in a way that made my chest ache. I named her Ash, because her fur was the color of cooled embers, and because everything about the moment I found her felt like the last spark left in a dying fire. Word travels fast in small trading posts, faster than any signal relay. Within 2 days, a Threxian enforcer ship dropped anchor at Drenna Station, and I was summoned to the dockmaster's office, where 3 tall predators stood waiting, their claws retracted, but their meaning clear. The lead enforcer, a broad-shouldered male named Corveth, told me plainly that the cub was property of her birth clan, discarded according to their right, and that keeping her was an offense against Threxian law and Threxian pride. I told him I understood the law. Then I told him I was not giving her back. Corveth studied me the way you study something that refuses to make sense. Humans were still new to this part of the galaxy, small and unremarkable by their standards, easy to underestimate and easier to dismiss. He asked me why a creature so weak would risk conflict with an empire for the sake of one flawed cub. I did not have a clever answer then. I only said that where I come from, we do not throw away what is ours simply because it is not perfect. He left without taking her, but he promised the birth clan would not forget. That promise followed us for years. Raising Ash was nothing like raising a human child, and nothing like the stories I had heard about Threxian rearing either. Her people believed strength came from cruelty, that only the ones who survived harsh testing deserved to lead. I did not believe that, and I refused to raise her that way. Instead, I taught her patience. I taught her that loyalty earned through choice was stronger than loyalty bred through fear. When she failed at something, I did not punish her. I sat with her until she tried again. When she succeeded, I told her so, plainly, without exaggeration, because I wanted her to trust my words completely. She grew fast. By her 2nd year with me, she was already taller than I was, her claws sharp enough to open Durasteel crates with ease, her senses sharper than any scanner I owned. But she never once turned that strength on me, not even in frustration, not even when the other Vextari traders who passed through the station looked at her with open contempt. I remember one merchant spitting at her feet, calling her the broken one, the discarded one, unworthy of her own blood. Ash did not lash out. She only looked at him, then looked at me, waiting to see how I would respond, the same way she had waited that first day in the pit. I told the merchant that where I came from, We measure worth by choices made, not by the color of an eye. He left without another word, and Ash's shoulders relaxed in a way I had come to recognize as her version of relief. It was not long after that, when the birth clan came for her properly. They arrived in a warship large enough to blot out the light from Drenna's small sun, and this time, it was not enforcers who stepped off the landing ramp. It was the clan elder herself, a massive predator named Threnna, flanked by the very hunters who had left Ash to die in that pit years before. Threnna's voice carried across the docking bay without needing amplification. She said the cub had been given a mercy she did not deserve, that keeping a flawed creature alive only weakened the bloodline, and that it was time to correct what a foolish human had interfered with. I stood in front of Ash, though by then she was easily twice my size, strong enough to end the confrontation herself in a heartbeat. I told Threnna that Ash was not a mistake to correct. She was my daughter in every way that mattered, and I would not step aside. Threnna laughed, low and rumbling, and told me humans did not understand strength. She said true strength was found in culling the weak, so only the worthy remained. I said something then that I still remember clearly, because it was the moment everything changed. I told her that real strength was choosing to protect something, even when it costs you everything, and that her empire had never learned the difference between power and worth. Threnna's eyes narrowed, and for a moment I believed I had made a fatal mistake standing between an empire and its own daughter. Then Ash stepped forward. She did not attack. She did not need to. She simply placed herself beside me, not behind me, beside me, an equal standing shoulder to shoulder with the human who had raised her, and she told her own birth clan, in their own language, that she had already chosen her family. The silence that followed was heavier than anything I had ever felt in my life. Threnna stared at her, truly stared, as if seeing something she had no framework to understand. A cub she had discarded as worthless had grown stronger than most of her own bloodline, not through cruelty, but through care. And that cub, given the choice to return to power and blood, chose loyalty instead. I watched something shift in Threnna's expression, something that looked almost like fear, though I would later learn it was closer to confusion. Her entire worldview was built on the idea that only cruelty produced strength. Ash standing there, proud and powerful, and utterly devoted to a human who had shown her nothing but patience, broke that idea completely. Threnna left without taking her. She left without another word at all, her warship rising off the landing pad in silence. And for the first time since I had found Ash in that frozen pit, I allowed myself to believe we might actually be safe. We were never truly safe after that, not in the way ordinary people are safe. Word of what happened on Drenna Station spread through Threxian space and beyond it, told and retold, until the details blurred into something closer to legend. Some versions said, I fought the entire birth clan alone. Others said, Ash tore through her own bloodline to protect me. Neither was true, but I stopped correcting people after a while, because the truth was somehow stranger and more powerful than any exaggeration. The truth was simple. A human found something the galaxy had thrown away, and instead of walking past it, chose to stay. Years later, traders still ask me if the stories are real, if I really raised a Threxian cub the Empire had discarded, if she really chose me over her own blood in front of the very clan that abandoned her. I tell them yes, all of it, without embellishment, because the truth needs no embellishment to be remarkable. Ash stands beside me even now, taller than any doorframe I own, stronger than anything else on this station, and gentler than any creature her people ever imagined possible. She still carries that pale gold eye, the mark that once meant she was worthless in the eyes of her own kind. Now it is the mark every trader recognizes on sight, the mark that makes even Empire enforcers lower their voices when they speak of her. They call her the discarded one who became legend. The Empire still whispers about it. In trading posts and warships and quiet corners of space, no map fully charts. They whisper about the day their own philosophy was broken, by nothing more than patience, loyalty, and one stubborn human who refused to believe that anything living was ever truly worthless. And every time I hear those whispers, I look at Ash, and she looks back at me, and neither of us needs to say a single word. We already know the ending to that story. We are still living it.